Good evening, students. So good evening all of you. So welcome to Unacademy. So welcome to Unacademy EAMCET YouTube channel, students. Myself Dr.Rajendra Prasad, and I have been teaching biology to NEET and EAMCET medical aspirants from last 30 years, students. So in today's topic, we will be discussing about the topic that is lipids. So it is a part of the lesson that is biomolecules. We will be discussing about the topic that is lipids, students. So before starting the lesson, as usual, I would like to introduce about our Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So I would like to introduce about our Unacademy Plus. So students, Unacademy Plus. So Unacademy Plus is for students who subscribe to our courses, students. Unacademy Plus is for students who subscribe to our courses. So students who subscribe to our courses, for them that is called Unacademy Plus. So let us see what is benefits of subscribing to Unacademy Plus courses, students. Let us see what is the benefits of taking Unacademy Plus subscription. If you see the benefits, premium content. So premium content will be available at affordable price, students. Then structured live courses. So structured live courses and dedicated live doubting sessions will be taking place. At the same time, quizzes. So quizzes at regular intervals. So quizzes are taking place at regular intervals, students. So batches. Lecturers will be in batches, students. You can join the batches of our interest actually. So that is the best important thing in Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So the test series. So test series also will be made available, and full length mock tests. So full length mock tests and etc. And as well as analysis of the results of the students also will be done. So this all you can get for a single subscription, students. So you can all get this for single subscription of amount a 1 month trial plan of 2,250 rupees, students. So you can use my code Rajendra to purchase this Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So recently there is one batch started in the month of December last week. You can see here that the name of the batch is called as EAMCET Rankers batch. So you can see that Rankers batch we have our top educators who will be teaching biology as well as maths, physics and chemistry, students. You can enroll this course by taking 1 month trial plan of 2,250 rupees. If interested, you can use my code Rajendra to purchase this particular EAMCET Rankers batch course, students. So what is the importance of this batch course is, this is for students who are preparing for next year medical and engineering entrance examination. So detailed explanation will be given in our Telugu language actually. So as this is EAMCET, so it is for Telugu students, Telangana and Andhra. So ఖచ్చితంగా టీచర్స్ అందరూ తెలుగు వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు ఉంటారు కాబట్టి మీకు మరింత ఈజీగా అర్థమవడానికి మరింత ఛాన్స్ ఉంటుంది. And ఈ బ్యాచ్ మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఏంటంటే కంప్లీట్ సిలబస్ ప్రిపరేషన్, సిలబస్ కూడా కంప్లీట్ కవర్ చేస్తారు మొత్తం. సో టిప్స్ అండ్ ట్రిక్స్ also will be given by educators and to save the time of students. So that is about this particular batch. So there is already one batch already going on, that is called as a comprehensive batch. In this comprehensive batch, Sam taking biology classes and Sir is taking the physics classes and Sir is taking the chemistry classes. And what is the importance of this particular comprehensive batch is, complete syllabus will be covered, students. Tips and tricks will be given by educators. So topic wise practice papers, full length mock tests. So this is all you can get for a 1 month plan of 2,250 rupees, friends. This is all you can get for 1 month plan of 2,250 rupees. If you are interested, you can use my code. So you can use my code Rajendra to purchase this comprehensive batch course of 1 month trial price of 2,250 rupees, friends. You can use my code Rajendra. So let us see about our long-term plan, students. So long-term plan, so 6 months plan costing around 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan. So 12 months plan costing around 12,375 rupees, students. You can purchase this long-term plan, 6 months plan, which is costing around 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan costing around 12,375 rupees, students. So if you are interested, you can use my code Rajendra Live. So use my code Rajendra Live to purchase this 6 months plan costing around 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan costing around 12,375 rupees. So that is importance of our this is about our Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So let us see the today's topic, that is on the lipids actually. So lipids, we are going to discuss about the lipids. So previous class we were discussing that in plants and animal cell we have different types of organic compounds. We were discussing in previous class. So biomolecules, this lesson comes under this topic, comes under the biomolecules lesson, students. So we were discussing biomolecules. Biomolecules involves the study of organic compounds. We already were discussing previous sessions. Okay, so different organic compounds are already we have seen, like, so we have seen few things about carbohydrates. So organic compounds includes carbohydrates, proteins, and as well as lipids. So these all are the organic compounds. So nucleic acids. So these are the different types of organic compounds actually. So these all carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acid. These all comes under the organic compounds. In today's class, we'll be discussing about the lipids. So if you see the amount of lipids, so in plant cell, if you see in plant cell, so in a plant cell, if you see the composition of a plant cell, the amount of lipids is very less. So if you see the amount of lipids in a plant cell, the amount of lipids in a plant cell is less than 1. So it is less than 1%, students, less than 1%. So very less amount of lipids are present in the plants. Even this very small amount of lipids are present, and they are, especially the fatty acids are present. They are especially the unsaturated fatty acids. You will be having unsaturated fatty acids in plant cells. You will be having unsaturated fatty acids. So these are good for health. Unsaturated fatty acids are good for health. They are good for health actually. They are good for health. So if you see the oils, so edible oils. So in the edible oils, if you see the composition of edible oils like sunflower oil, whether it is in refined oils, different types of refined oils, you will find the unsaturated fatty acids are present. So they are only good for health. Saturated fatty acids are not good for health. Even though saturated fatty acids are very less amount present in plant cell, majority of plant cells have unsaturated fatty acids. Okay, so in plant cell, if you see the amount of lipids is less than 1% is present, in very small amount, it is less than 1% in case of the plant cells. If you see in animal cell, so in an animal cell, if you see in an animal cell, the amount of lipids in animal cell, if you see the amount of lipid, so the amount of lipids in animal cell, if you see the amount of lipid ranges. So the amount of lipid ranges between 2 to 3%. So it be something between 1 to 2%. So little bit something more than the plant cell actually. So when you compare the amount of lipids present in plant cell and animal cell, in plant cell we have lipids, but they are present in very less amount. They are less than 1%. If you see in animal cell, you also have lipids, but lipids are something between 1 to 2%. So in that lipid specifically, it has fatty acids, and the type of fatty acids are saturated fatty acids. They are having, so the animal cell you have fatty acids, of course they are the saturated fatty acids. So saturated fatty acids, you can see the saturated fatty acids. So saturated fatty acids are present inside this particular animal cell. So lipids, they are present in plant cell, they are part of the animal cell. So in plant cell, the amount of lipids are very less. So because of that reason, so the scientists and doctors suggest to take the plant food material, because they have very least amount of the lipids. When you go to the animal cell, they also have lipids. In that lipids specifically, they have fatty acids, they are saturated fatty acids. So these are not good for health. Saturated fatty acid consumption of saturated fatty acids is not good for health. So consumption of unsaturated fatty acids is good for health actually. So like this, so lipids are present in both animals and as well as the plants. Good evening, Sahiti. So good evening, welcome to Unacademy EAMCET. So hi, how are you? Hope you are doing well. So let us see what is lipid is composed of. If you see the composition of a lipid, so let us see what is a lipid is composed of. If you see the lipid composition, so let us see the composition of lipid. So if you clearly see here, it is mentioned here, lipid is composed of. So what is lipid is composed of? A lipid is composed of, it is composed of glycerol. It is composed of glycerol plus fatty acid. So lipid is composed of glycerol and fatty acid. So glycerol and fatty acid both are joined by a specific bond. The type of bond is called as a ester bond. It is called as actually the ester bond. So glycerol and fatty acid. So glycerol and fatty acid both are joined by a bond. The type of bond is called as a ester bond. So what is lipid is composed of? It is composed of glycerol plus fatty acid. Glycerol and fatty acid both are joined by a specific bond. The type of bond is called as a ester bond. See here, you can see. So now this is the glycerol molecule. To this glycerol, your 3 fatty acids are attached. So when 3 fatty acids are attached, it is called as a triglyceride. It is called as a triglyceride. So now this is a typical representation of triglyceride. So you can see here, this is how the lipid is represented in the cell membrane. So if you see any diagrams of cell membrane, the lipid is represented in this manner. In this part is called as a head part. Now this part is called as a head part, and you can see there is 3 fatty acids. They are all together. This is called as a tail part actually. So head part is made up of glycerol, of course. So this head part made up of glycerol, and it is hydrophilic in nature. So this is hydrophilic in nature. So the head part is made up of glycerol and it is hydrophilic in nature. Whereas the tail part, so tail part is hydrophobic. So tail part is hydrophobic in nature. So tail part is hydrophobic in nature. So head part, if you see head part is hydrophilic in nature, whereas tail part is hydrophobic in nature. Then if you see what is the meaning of this term hydrophilic nature means, so that particular compound interact with water molecule, that is called as a hydrophilic in nature. So those molecules which do not mix with water, do not interact with water, that is called as a hydrophobic nature. So in a lipid is made up of glycerol plus fatty acid. So glycerol, so if you see the glycerol structure actually, if you see the structure of a glycerol, you can see this particular diagram. Now this is the typical structure of glycerol. So glycerol is having, it is a 3-carbon compound. You can see this having 3-carbon compound, and it also have 3 hydroxyl groups. You can see here 3 hydroxyl groups are present. As glycerol is having 3 hydroxyl group, it is a hydrophilic compound. It can easily interact with any other compound. It is a hydrophilic. So that is the reason the head part of lipid, which is glycerol, so we can see in this diagram. So head part, now this is glycerol. Glycerol is having 3 hydroxyl groups. So it is a hydrophilic in nature. So to each hydroxyl group, here one fatty acid. Now this is a fatty acid. Now this is a typical fatty acid. You can see this R group indicates it is a hydrocarbon tail. So here R. So R group represents hydrocarbon chain. Okay. So here, so this is one fatty acid. Now this is another fatty acid. Now this is another fatty acid. So 3 fatty acids. So these fatty acids interact with glycerol to form a triglyceride. Now this is a triglyceride. You can see here, this is a triglyceride. Now, so triglyceride, you can see. So here you can find, this is the bond in this lipid molecule. Here you see now this one, which I have drawn in box. Now this is called as a ester bond. Now this bond is called as a ester bond. Now this bond is called as a ester bond. So between glycerol and fatty acid, there is a formation of bond took place, and this specific type of bond is called as an ester bond. It is called as an ester bond. So here you can clearly see that there is a formation of ester bond is taking place. So now this lipids, where do we find lipids? That is the main thing. So if you see the plant cell or animal cell, so where do we find lipids? So lipids in case of animal cell, if you see in case of the animal cell, okay, in case of animal cell, or of course in plant cell. So lipids are present. So lipids are present in abundant amounts. So they are present in cell membrane. So if you see the composition of cell membrane is made up of, it is made up of lipids and as well as proteins. So it is made up of lipids and as well as proteins. So if you see the amount of proteins in cell membrane is 52%, whereas amount of lipids in the cell membrane is 40%. So amount of lipids in animal cell, if you see the composition of lipids in an animal cell, so you can clearly observe that. So lipids, it is 40% here. the amount of lipids are 40%, amount of proteins are 52%. And specifically, if you see the specifically lipids, if you see the lipids, specifically what type of lipids are present in cell membrane means, the cell membrane is rich in cell membrane. So cell membrane is rich in, phospholipids. It is rich in phospholipids. So it is rich in phospholipids. Cell membrane is rich in phospholipids. So cell membrane is rich in phospholipids. So lipid cell membrane is rich in phospholipids. So cell membrane is rich in phospholipids. So nearly 70%. Nearly 70% of total lipids, nearly 70% of total lipids. So nearly 70% of total lipids. Okay, out of the total lipids, 70% of the lipids are phospholipids. And if you see the best example of phospholipids, so best example of phospholipids is lecithin and cephalin. So lecithin and cephalin. So lecithin and cephalin, these are the two best examples of the lipids. So lecithin and cephalin. So lecithin and cephalin, these are the two best examples of lipids. So cell membrane is rich in phospholipids. Out of the total lipids, nearly 70% of the total lipids, out of the total lipids, so nearly 70% of the total lipids, they are phospholipids. Best example is lecithin and cephalin. So lipids. So lipids are present in animal cell. So in cell membrane, if you again once again see, lipids are present in the cell membrane. It is of about 40%, and proteins are contributing about 52%. So in lipids, specifically what type of lipids it is made up of? It is made up of phospholipids. They are rich in phospholipids. So best example of phospholipids are lecithin and cephalin. Lecithin and cephalin are the best examples of the phospholipids actually. Okay, let's continue, students. Then you see there is another ring-like. So another lipids which are in ring-like. So ring-like structure, that is steroid. So best example. So steroids. Best example of steroids, if you see, cholesterol. So this cholesterol. So cholesterol is a ring-like lipid. The lipid with the ring structure or structure. So that is best example is cholesterol. So in plants, if you see in case of the plants. Okay, in case of the plants, cholesterol is absent. In case of the plants, we don't find any cholesterol. So cholesterol is absent in plants. Cholesterol is absent. So cholesterol is absent in case of the plants. So instead of cholesterol, they have in plants you have ergosterol. So instead of cholesterol, it is having ergosterol. So cholesterol, the term cholesterol we cannot use for the plants actually. Instead of cholesterol, we have specific substance, and that is called as ergosterols. In plants, we have instead of cholesterol, we have ergosterol. Then if you see in case of animals, cholesterol is present. So cholesterol is present in case of the animals. So you can also find the cholesterol in the cell membrane of animals. In cell membrane of animals, you can find cholesterol. In cell membrane it is present. So it is present in cell membrane actually. Okay, cholesterol is present in cell membrane. So in case of prokaryotes, so once again remember students, see if in prokaryotes actually, in case of prokaryotes, cholesterol is absent. So cholesterol is absent also in case of the prokaryotes. So remember students, so the lipid with ring-like structure. So Best example is cholesterol, and this cholesterol is totally absent in case of the plant cells. Because of the reason, so it is better to take the plant as a food material than compared to the animals, because so plant is totally free of cholesterol, but there is a ring-like structure also present in the plants, which is a lipid. So that is called ergosterols. In plants it is called ergosterol actually. Of course in plants cholesterol is present, and we can simply where do we see cholesterol means it is in the cell membrane. You can find the cholesterol in case of animals in cell membrane, whereas in prokaryotic cell cholesterol is absent. So remember, in prokaryotic cell also we have cell membrane, but in the cell membrane of prokaryotic cell cholesterol is absent. So you can see in cholesterol structure, okay. So if you see here, there are 4 rings are present. Remember students, how many rings are present in typical cholesterol structure? They will ask in multiple choice question, so you can clearly remember that it is having 4 rings. So 4 rings are present. It is actually called phenanthrene ring actually. It is also called as a phenanthrene ring. So that is about this cholesterol students. Let us see some multiple choice questions regarding this particular biomolecules topic only. So let us see the bond formed between the 2 adjacent monosaccharides. So let us see the multiple choice question students regarding some biomolecules topic. So the bond, what is the bond formed between the 2 adjacent monosaccharides? Okay, so if you clearly see, yes, anybody can give this answer. So what is the bond formed between the 2 adjacent monosaccharides is called as, what type of bond is present between the 2 adjacent monosaccharides? So anyway students, let us see. So between 2 monosaccharides, or sugars. So between 2 monosaccharides or sugars. So bond between the 2 monosaccharides or sugars. If you see the bond between the 2 monosaccharides or sugars, if you see what type of bond is present means it is glycosidic bond students. You have to remember this, it is glycosidic bond. So glycosidic bond is present between the 2 sugars. Okay. So monosaccharide or sugar, so glycosidic bond is present between the 2 monosaccharides. Then similarly, if you see, so between 2 amino acids, so here between 2 monosaccharides, or sugars, we have glycosidic bond. Similarly, so between 2 amino acids, if you see the bond is called as a peptide bond. So peptide bond. Peptide bond is present between 2 amino acids. Peptide bond is present between the 2 amino acids. So similarly, in the lipid, we have seen just now in lipid. So glycerol is joined to glycerol. Just now we have seen in lipid, glycerol is joined to fatty acid. So glycerol is joined to fatty acid by ester bond. So ester bond is present in the lipids actually. Similarly, in case of nucleic acids, if you see in case of nucleic acids, so phosphodiester bond will be present anyhow. So anyway, say here three bonds are mentioned. Peptide bond. So peptide bond is present between 2 amino acids. Ester bond is present in the lipids. So glycosidic bond, the bond found between the 2 sugars or between 2 monosaccharides is called as a glycosidic bond. So like this, these are the different bonds. So based on this, anyway, the question, our answer is option C will be our answer. Now let us see this another question. So which is the correct representation of ribose? So you have to identify which is ribose here. Now if you go through the structures clearly, so ribose is a 5-carbon sugar. So here you can see here, this is carbon 1, it has another one carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, this is carbon 5. Okay, now this is having 5 carbons, it is having the 5 carbons. Now this structure is a best example of, now this is a ribose, now this is a ribose, now this one is a ribose actually. So this structure actually, if you see, so this structure seems to be a glucose. It is a glucose. So now this one, so this is a purine. So this is a purine base. So purine base, so specifically it looks like it is 89. It is 89. Okay. Then if you see here, this is a pyrimidine. Okay. Now this one is a pyrimidine. So looks like it is uracil. Now this structure seems to be like a uracil. This one is a uracil. Uracil. So 2,4 dihydroxy pyrimidine uracil. Now this one 6 amino purine. Now this one is 6 amino purine. 6 amino purine. This one is 2,4 dioxy pyrimidine. Now this is 2,4 dioxy pyrimidine. Okay, this is uracil. Okay, right students. So out of this all structures we have seen. So question is asking about ribose. So option B will be our answer as a ribose. Okay, let's move to the next question. Let's see the next question, students. So which of the following is a stored form of energy in plants? So in which molecule energy is stored in the plants? That was the question. So plants when undergo photosynthesis, they synthesize glucose. So plants when undergo photosynthesis, we know that they synthesize glucose. So excess glucose synthesized by the plant is stored. Excess glucose synthesized by is stored in the form of starch. So that is the reason we have to take answer. So in case of plants, the energy is stored in the form of a starch. Okay. If it is in case of animals, now this is in case of the plants. So in plants, excess amount of glucose synthesized is stored in the form of starch. If it is in case of the animals, what happens? If it is in case of animals, excess amount of glucose is stored in the form of, so it is glycogen. Excess amount of glucose synthesized by the plants. Excess amount of glucose synthesized by the plants is stored in the form of starch, whereas excess amount of glucose synthesized by the animals is stored in the form of glycogen. Okay, so remember students. So like this. So finally, according to our given question, which of the following is stored form of energy means it is the starch is the right answer. Next question. So what is lipid is made up of? So lipids. So we know that lipid is made up of carbon. It is having hydrogen. It is having oxygen. So just now we were discussing lipid. So lipid is made up of glycerol plus fatty acid, and glycerol and fatty acid is made up of glycerol and fatty acid, and this glycerol and fatty acid both are joined by ester bond. That also we are discussing the same thing in today's class. They are joined by the ester bond. So ester bond. So between glycerol and fatty acid we have a specific type of bond that is called as a ester bond. And lipids, we already know that they don't dissolve in water. So you take a oil and pour in the water, they don't mix. So water and oil don't mix because lipid is insoluble in water. So based on that we can take all of this as our answer in this case. So same thing, lipid is made up of fatty acid plus glycerol and compounds of both glycerol and fatty acid. Okay. So finally we have to take option as C actually. Lipid is made up of compounds related to both, means it is made up of fatty acid plus glycerol. Next question, students. How many carbons are present in palmitic acid and arachidonic acid? So how many carbons are present in palmitic acid? How many carbons are present in arachidonic acid? So if you see in case of palmitic acid, so palmitic acid is a 16 carbon fatty acid. It is made up of 16 carbon. If you see arachidonic acid, it is made up of 20 carbon. So palmitic acid is a saturated fatty acid made up of 16 carbon compound. Arachidonic acid is a unsaturated fatty acid So palmitic acid is 16 carbon compound, arachidonic acid is a 20 carbon compound. So that is about this question, students. So that is the end of today's session, students. So let us see next class about nucleic acids. So please join that session also, students. So maybe day after tomorrow we'll be having, you can check the timings and join the, we'll be discussing about few things about the nucleic acids as well. So before ending these sessions, I would like to once again introduce about our Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So Unacademy Plus subscription. So you can see our Unacademy long-term plans. These are the best plans, students, actually. These are the best plans. 6 months plan costing around 10,125 rupees. At the same time, 12 months plan, it is costing around 12,375 rupees. So these are two best plans, students. I suggest you to purchase this Unacademy long-term plans of 6 months plan costing around 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan costing around 12,375 rupees. So if you are interested, you can use my code Rajendra Live. So use my code Rajendra Live and purchase this 6 months course for 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan for 12,375 rupees, students. So thank you, students. This is the end of today's session. Let us see in the next class. So bye bye all of you.